Yeah, it's evening here.
Okay.
Firstly,
I hope
thank
your
you very
evening's going well. It's morning here, and so far so good.
yeah, it's going well, and you made it more beautiful with your presence.
We'll see if I can continue that.
Thank you, firstly, for coming to my show and accepting to be on my show.
Thank you for inviting me. This is a fascinating series of interviews you have. I've browsed quite a few, and it's a good variety, diverse topics, diverse people. So I think it's wonderful.
So I thought to tell about you and the work that you're doing, and also the work that you did before, and the motivation to do the present work to my audience and to the world who are listening to this conversation through podcast or my YouTube channel from
Hmm.
anywhere on this planet.
That's amazing. Okay, I'm ready when you are.
So before that, can you please introduce yourself?
Yeah, my name is Damian Synadinos. I'm born, raised, and live in Columbus, Ohio, in the United States. Um, 49 years old. My birthday was 2 days ago, so I'm brand new 49 years old. And I've got quite an interesting or perhaps unusual past in history, professionally, personally. And I guess that's what we're going to talk about a little bit today. My current company is Ineffable-Solutions. It's my own company, and I'm currently a public speaker.
So you started this company 20 years back.
No, this company actually was founded. I started it in 2016, so it's not very old yet. But before that, I was in software testing, computer software testing. Some people call it quality assurance for 25 years at a variety of different companies all around central Ohio, Columbus, Ohio.
So why you created this?
Well, I'll go back a little bit further to give some more context and backstory in case that's helpful. I was involved with computers at a very early age. When I was just in primary school, I taught myself basic computer programming language on what's called a TRS-80 color computer. So one of the very first home computers, I taught myself basic programming. My father, a Greek immigrant, was an electrical engineer at Bell Labs. And so I grew up around computers, learning computers. By the time I was 19 years old, I was attending the Ohio State University for computer science. And through some friends and family, I was offered a job in the quality assurance department of CompuServe, an old company that's no longer around, but used to be the primary way that people would get online, maybe the only way that people would get online and communicate with others around the world. So that was in 1993. They gave me a temporary job as an intern. I worked there for 6 months, and then they offered me a full-time job. So I dropped out. I started taking night classes at school. I did that for 6 months, and then I just quit school. So I dropped out of college and decided that quality assurance software testing was a good career. I was at CompuServe for 4 years, and after that, I left for another company. And over the next 25 years, I worked in software testing and quality assurance at 15 or 16 different companies. Large companies of 40,000 people, small companies of 30 people. I've worked in insurance and airline and retail and banking and finance and e-commerce and education, so a variety of different industries. All of them have a commonality in that they make or use software in some way, shape, or form, and therefore they need the services of a software tester to make sure that the software is doing what the users hope and desire it to do. And so I worked in software testing and quality assurance for 25 years. Towards the end of that time, some personal things happened that led me towards some introspection, analyzing myself, my beliefs. And I realized as I began to learn more about communication and empathy and other fundamental concepts, I had more enlightened views about software testing. But not everybody at my company was interested in hearing them. And I left that company for another, and the same thing. They weren't interested in the ideas, and I left that company for another. And it was very frustrating until a mentor advised me that I was inflicting help. I really like that phrase. Inflicting is the idea of doing something unwanted to somebody, but help is the idea of helping someone, assisting someone. So that term was a great term. And they suggested that maybe instead of inflicting help, I go to a place where people are seeking to better themselves, to help themselves, such as a conference. and they suggested that I create a talk and go present at a conference with all the things I'd learned. So I created my first conference talk. I went and I got accepted to a conference. I spoke. That led to another, to another, to another. I really enjoyed speaking at conferences. It felt very meaningful. Felt like I was helping people improve themselves personally, professionally. And then I started getting compensated for my speaking. And I thought, wow, wouldn't this be an incredible way to make a living? And so I ended up quitting my job and founding Ineffable Solutions, and I became a full-time public speaker.
So, your present job is to talk.
That's right. Yes, I get paid to talk.
So, if I see your career started working on software testing, now you became a speaker. So you started talking with computers before. Now you're talking with human beings.
Exactly. Yes. In fact, that's very close to one of my little cutesy taglines. My mottos is that for many 25 years, I helped build better software and build software better, but now I help build better people, is the way I like to say it. And many of the conferences and conventions that I speak at and the corporations are software and testing, development related, often very technical in nature, because that's my background and those are the people I know and those are the people that know me. However, the topics that I speak about are evergreen. They're constantly relevant to people, no matter what your industry, what your context. They're very, very applicable in a wide variety of situations. And so I've started speaking at some conferences and conventions outside of technology, such as college administrators or junkyard owners. The same talk I've given to technologists, I'm able to give to anyone that lives and breathes. I think it can help them.
So you worked for different companies to build their software before. So how that diverse experience is helping you to be a good speaker today?
Well, one of my most popular talks is called More Than That. And the title came from the idea that we are all more than that. The that, it very often is our profession, our title. If you meet someone at a party or a networking event, you might ask their first question, what do you do? And people will respond very often with their professional title, their job title. But that isn't who the person is, that's what they do. So more than that, they're far more than just their title. But oftentimes people will be seen and people will see themselves as just their professional occupation. When I suggest that there's many other things that they can do, that they can provide value in many other ways. Part of exploring that is helping people better understand and better recognize the multitude of transferable skills, knowledge, and experience that they have from one area of their life to another. So one thing I do in the talk is it's a fun improv game where I get people to come on stage and I take any occupation. It could be silly like a falconer, or somebody that deals with falcons, or window washing, or a tank commander, or an accountant, or a garbage man, or it doesn't matter. And then they talk about it for 30 seconds. They pretend that they're a window washer or a tank commander. And at the end of their conversation, I'll take elements of what they talked about and tell how it could make me a better software tester. There's always things that you can take from one area of your life and apply it to another. So some of the things that I might have taken from software testing to help me be a better speaker is, for instance, attention to detail. Software testers must have attention to detail. They must notice things that pass by the eyes of others. They must be very observant. Well, that is a very important skill as a speaker. If I'm on stage speaking to people, I like to be able to see their faces, see their body language, see their facial expressions, and notice things about them. Tell if somebody is really interested in what I have to say, or if they're not so interested in what I have to say, and if their body language can tell me something. So those are things that come with being observant, noticing things. And I would like to think that part of being a software tester and being observant and developing those skills has also helped me in that area of public speaking. So that's one small example, but I would suggest that there's many, many hundreds of other things that can come from software testing to make me a better to make me a better public speaker. And the same goes for anybody in any situation. If they critically examine the things that they do in their life, whether they're cooking or sports or a parent or whatever they do, there's elements of doing those things that can help them in their professional life. And vice versa. Things that they do in their professional life can help them be a better parent or a better sports player or whatever.
So you came to know this after establishing this, or you know this, if I establish this, I can able to do this.
I think that's a great question. Uh, I think to some degree it might have been subconscious. Maybe there was some transferring of knowledge, skills, and attributes subconsciously. Um, Maybe I like to play basketball, and part of playing basketball is being on a team and working well with others. It's a team sport. It's not a sport of individual players. So it's a team sport. Perhaps there was things about playing basketball my entire life that subconsciously translated over to being a software tester on a team of testers, on a team of people making software for a common goal. But it wasn't until I sat down and explicitly thought about is there anything from basketball that would make me a better software tester? Oh, playing on a team. I suppose that would. How would that help me? And thinking about it explicitly, writing it down, and then saying it on stage to others in a talk to help them better realize it. So I suspect that it might have been subconscious happening without me even realizing it before, but it wasn't until I introspected and really analyzed what was going on that I realized what was happening. Does that make sense?
Yeah, if you took this as your first job, how would you be?
If I took which as my first job.
The present job.
If I was public speaking as my very first job, oh, that's a million ifs, a very theoretical question. As my first job when I was 19 years old, still at Ohio State University, um, boy, I don't think that I would have been as good. Part of what makes me a good speaker now is the diversity of life experience. I mentioned improv earlier, that I use improv in one of my talks. I took 15 years. I've done improvisational comedy. Like there's a show called Whose Line Is It Anyway, which is about improvisational comedy, which essentially is creating something from nothing. It's creating a play or an act or something with no scripts, no props, no costumes. You do it in the moment. And you can train for that and become better at it, become better at extemporaneous speaking. And I trained for a year. I did improv hundreds of shows over 15 years. That life experience absolutely has helped me be a better public speaker. When I was 19 years old, if I had tried to become a public speaker without that life experience, I don't think I would have been as good. Without the diversity of the 25 years of software testing and realizing, working on a team is very important, and how can that help me as a software tester? Being observant during a software testing can help me be a better public speaker. All of those things I would have lacked at 19 years old, and I don't think I would have been as good. So I definitely think that my life experience has helped me become a better speaker.
So what exactly you do now?
Well, when I quit my job, I left a very comfortable job making a lot of money, but I was worried a lot. I was up at night because I lacked meaning. I felt like I spent a lot of time behind a desk, typing on a keyboard, helping make a computer program a little bit better than it was before, and helping make users a little bit happier than they were before that use those computer programs. But is that really that meaningful? And I worried about that. I worried that if I found myself at the end of my life and I said, did I matter? How could I answer that question? And my friends and family would say, yes, you mattered. And I say, well, you're my friends and family. Of course you're going to say that. But what about all the many hundreds and thousands of hours I spent behind a keyboard? Does that matter really? And so it kept me awake at night. And so when I decided to become a public speaker, because it felt meaningful, when I give talks and presentations at conferences around the world, some of the feedback I get from people is very moving. They talk about how I'm changing the way that they see the world. I'm changing the way that they view their relationships with boyfriends, girlfriends, husbands, wives, children. I get emails and correspondences sometimes weeks, months, or years later about people that attended one of my talks and says, I'm still using the things that you talked about today to make me a better person. Wow, that is incredibly meaningful. Now, if I'm at the end of my life and I say, did I matter? I feel like I really mattered in a great way. I've touched a lot of lives in a lot of ways to make things better, to make people better, to make the world better. Unfortunately, now I'm up at night for lack of money. Becoming a speaker is very difficult. I left a very comfortable, well-paying job, and it's been a very difficult path. So I basically traded money for meaning in my career.
So software came after a long time in human evolution. So now you came to know about what communication is, the real communication between human beings.
Ah, what a great insight. I love that you saw that. Yeah, as far as a profession goes, as far as engineering, there's civil engineering, mechanical engineering, electrical engineering. There's a lot of different career paths that allow people to create things. Software is one of the youngest of those engineering career paths. It's only 50 or 60 years old, which is in its infancy compared to these other engineering things. So absolutely, software is very, very young, very new in the grand scope of creating as far as career paths and much more in the larger scope than that. However, the thing that you mentioned, understanding communication, and I mentioned earlier things like empathy and some of the other fundamental topics that are core to all of my presentations and talks, things like the idea of relativism or perspective and subjectivity, how one person sees it this way, another person sees it another way. That's absolutely an important concept to understand. The concept of modeling, that everything that we think, do, and say is based off of some type of model, whether it's a physical or mental model. And so what are the advantages and benefits of a model, and understanding how models work, and what are the limitations and disadvantages of models. Very fundamental concept. Understanding causality, cause and effect. Why do things happen? Before we chatted today, I was asking a lot of why questions, and I think it's extremely important for people to better understand the reasons that they do things, which can then help them better understand what to do and how to do it. But that kind of abstract concept sometimes isn't a focus of a lot of people. So I focus on those types of things, and it wasn't until later in life, through a lot of life experience, that I realized that those are truly the important things. Of course, in software engineering, tools are very important, and there's always a new tool to try and learn, and techniques and processes and approaches. And there's an old way of doing things and a new iterative way and a new agile way. And there's all sorts of different ways that people do things when they make software, and different titles. And those are all certainly important. However, beneath all of those are the ideas that I just mentioned: communication, empathy, relativism, causality. And if you understand those things, it will not only help you become a better software engineer, it will help you become a better person, which you might be a plumber or a skier or a baker. It doesn't really matter. So I absolutely think that if you look at any problem that a company is having and you go backwards and ask, well, why did that happen? Why did that happen? Why did that happen? Very often you can end up at one of these fundamental concepts. It was because there was a lack of understanding of causality. It was because there was a lack of communication, inefficient, ineffective communication. It was because they didn't empathize properly with another person, and that rolled up into some other problem that manifests itself as a loss of revenue or some high-level business problem, or unhappy customers or something like that. If you trace it all the way back, it's very often one of those very fundamental concepts.
So can I say you understood the logical thinking when you was into software development or software testing. Now you are into understanding about emotions of human beings, which are interconnected.
I'm wildly impressed with your questions. I must say, that is a great question. So, logic versus emotion. Um, I grew up very interesting because, as I said, as in primary school, I learned computer programming, my very first computer language of many throughout my life. And when other children, at least in America, maybe were playing sports and throwing the ball in the backyard, I was inside learning computer programming. Learning computer programming comes with having or developing an analytical mind, very logical, very sequential, very functional, thinking cause and effect. So that's absolutely part of my upbringing, helped me in my career as a software tester. However, I also was very artistic as a child. I've been drawing since I was 5 or 6 years old. As I said, I did improv as an adult for 15 years. That's a very artistic endeavor. So I like to think that the way that my particular mind works is a nice mixture of logic and emotion. And sometimes I experience something that makes me very emotional, very angry, very sad. And then I also have the other side of my mind, which is processing. What exactly am I feeling and why am I feeling that? And what are the things that are causing me to feel this way? So I'm processing the emotion. It's not typically very common that people act or think in this way. It's the way that my brain works. But I think it's advantageous for a lot of different reasons. Having the mixture of logic and emotion, I think, can help better relate to people. Some people are far more logical and aren't in touch with their emotions so much. Well, I think that I can relate with them. Other people are very emotional and they wear their heart on the sleeve, is a saying. They're happy to express their emotions, and anyone can tell how they're feeling just by talking or looking at them. But maybe they're not as logical or as analytical. Well, I think that I have that side to me as well, so I'm able to relate to them. And I think that helps with empathy and with communication, being better able to understand the people that I'm trying to get my brain idea, my brain bubble into theirs, into their head.
So you already know the mechanism of the software, you know how it functions, you know how to solve the problems regarding it because you worked for quite a while in your life. Now you took a different job which is completely different from that. So which one is good?
Ah, boy. Good. That's an adjective. Adjectives are always in comparison to something else and to some degree. You can't have good without bad. You can't have bumpy without smooth. You can't have tall without short. So good as compared to what? In this case, is one better or worse than the other? I can't say that one is better or worse. I said that one seems to give me more meaning, but the other gave me more money. So I guess it depends on which measuring stick you're using. If some person said, Damian, which job is better, software testing or public speaking? I say, well, which ruler are you using to measure? Better or worse? Are you using money? If you're using money, then your answer would probably be software testing. I was making far more money. But if your ruler is meaning, then I might suggest that my current job as public speaking ranks far higher on the meaning scale. So in that case, if that's how you're measuring, I would say that that one is better. So it really depends on which measuring stick you're using to talk about good or bad or better or worse. To me, they're just different in different ways.
So how you are enjoying in the present job?
I enjoy it very, very much. As I said, I'm not making as much money now, but the emails and correspondence I get from attendees weeks, months, years later that says, I still use this idea, or something you said helped me in my relationship with my daughter. I can't buy a bicycle for my child with that feedback, but it does fill me with quite a bit of meaning. And again, at the end of my life, I feel like I will have contributed to the world in a very meaningful way. I've done my part to make this world a better place as much as I can with what I'm able to do with my particular knowledge, skills, and experience.
So what you are learning and what you are understanding in your present role?
Oh, I learned from every single experience. It's very rewarding being on stage and meeting people and getting to go around the world gets me outside of my bubbles. Everybody everywhere has bubbles, contextual bubbles of society, of community, of jobs. But oftentimes people aren't able to break outside of those bubbles. And so therefore the things that they think, do, and say are just reflected back like an echo chamber. But public speaking, going around the world and meeting people in a variety of different contexts and countries and cultures has broadened my horizons and allowed me to burst many of my bubbles, to see things from different eyes, from different points of view. So that's one benefit I get from it that I really, really enjoy. I like that a lot. A thing I've done recently, I mentioned my improv. So I trained for a year. I've performed hundreds of shows over 15 years at comedy clubs and corporate engagements and outside festivals and all sorts of different environments. More recently, I had the opportunity to teach improv to blind and visually impaired students at a local school in Columbus, Ohio. So between 10 and 15 children in two different after-school programs, I was able to put together some material and teach them improvisation, short-form improvisational comedy, which is really just an abstraction of many life skills: communication, empathy, collaboration, all those things that help you be a better baker or software tester or a plumber or executive can also help you be a better human. So really, I'm coming in and teaching these kids life skills through improvisation. But in this case, it was for a group of blind and visually impaired students. Oh my goodness, I learned far more from these kids than they learned from me. I came in with my curriculum and lesson plan each week, but the things I learned from these kids was hope and determination and guts and excitement and faith. It was just amazing to learn from these kids. So similarly to how I'm able to go around the world and meet different people in different contexts, even locally, I can meet people that are amazing to me and help broaden my own sense of self.
So what is the best compliment that you got?
That's a great question. I mentioned earlier that sometimes I get feedback from folks. Boy, that's a great question. Feedback from folks afterwards that say, you've helped me in this way. One was from a woman after a talk at a business analyst conference. So BAs, the people that elicit requirements from users and then give them to developers to make the thing, and then testers to make sure that the thing that they wanted to make is in line with the thing that they actually made. Business analysts. And I gave a talk called The Hidden Requirements, which is about the emotional requirements that are often neglected when we create software. We focus on functional requirements and performance requirements and security and archival and all these different sorts of requirements without ever considering the emotions of the users. So this talk is really focused on assessing and analyzing how people feel. And in doing so, I talk a lot about emotions and empathy and why we feel and problems and solutions and all sorts of really deep topics. And at the end, this business analysis woman, business analyst, came up and she said, hey, thank you very much for your talk. I really appreciate it. I can see how it will help me become a better business analyst. However, I've also suffered from depression in my life, and now I'm a single mom with a teenage daughter who's suffering the same affliction. And she's been suicidal, and it's been a struggle. We go to therapy, but some of the things you talked about today, I can't wait to go home and tell my daughter about and discuss these ideas because I think it's really going to help her outlook and our relationship. Well, my heart exploded out of my chest. That's an incredible compliment because she was able to see explicitly how some of the things I talked about aren't really about being a business analyst. They're about being a better human that you can apply to BA work, but it's not about being a BA. Some other people in the audience maybe got that subconsciously, but not explicitly, but she explicitly understood how the things I spoke about can help in a different context. And that was an incredible compliment. It wasn't terribly surprising because I know this about the content of my work, that it's just about humanity. So it wasn't surprising, but it was extremely gratifying. It made me feel humble and appreciated. So that's one of the best I ever got. On the other side, as a software tester, I remember a compliment that stuck with me for decades. As a software tester at a company where that was not a role that they had a lot of people in. There wasn't a lot of people that for checks and balances that looked at the work of others critically with a critical eye. And I was working on a team of developers, and I was the first tester they'd ever encountered. And after about 6-8 months of working with them, one of them came to me and said, working with you has helped me become a better developer. It's helped me see things differently than how I used to see them before. And now I look at my own work more critically, more carefully because of seeing the things that you do. So that was a completely different sort of compliment coming from the software testing side of my life, but it also made me feel very, very good and appreciated.
Can I say in this part of your life you came to know the reason why human beings are creating softwares?
Can you ask that question in a different way?
Now you came to know about why softwares are important for human beings because you are talking with so many software users already now in this job. They are
I
already
see.
using softwares uh, through different devices uh, for which you have worked as a tester before. Now you're directly interacting with the users and talking something else.
I think I understand the question. In that talk I mentioned earlier, the hidden requirements, one of the things that I focus on is why do we make software? Why? And a common answer is to solve problems. Is a very common answer. If you talk to anybody that's thought for more than a few minutes about why are we make software anyway, they might come to the logical conclusion that it's to solve problems, or maybe they read it on a blog post somewhere or an article that the reason we create software is to solve problems. And I like that answer, but I also use it as the base to dig deeper. Well, why do we solve problems? Why do we need to solve any problems at all? And I dig down into that and I come to the conclusion that it's to affect emotion. Everything's about affecting emotion, making us feel in ways that we want to feel. A problem is undesirable. Solutions are desirable. The difference between a problem and solution is just one is desired and one is undesired. Desire is an emotion. So if you're solving problems, what you're doing is affecting emotion. So essentially, software, if it is indeed to solve problems, is about affecting emotion. And software isn't the only way that we solve problems. Some problems are solved with a hammer or with a pizza. There's different ways that you can solve the problem of hunger or getting a nail into a piece of wood. There's all sorts of problems. Software is one way that we solve problems. Why are we solving those problems? To make people feel the way that they want to feel.
Can I expect you working for artificial intelligence in future because you already worked communicating with the machines which are lifeless. Now you are communicating with human beings who are life, who has life and who has emotions because you know uh, uh, to the communication between the machine and a human being.
Well, that's a wonderful thought for me to have. Could I go into artificial intelligence? In the late 80s and early 90s, when I was still in school and early college, I became very, very interested in artificial intelligence and at the time, very rudimentary virtual reality. And I imagined a marrying of the two, being able to be in a virtual environment with thinking machines. And I became very interested in some of the early, more rough endeavors around those two areas. But it fell away through the years. I lost interest in it, and I know that there's been leaps and bounds in both areas. That said, the leaps and bounds that have been made are still a far cry from the way that the human mind works. We have very targeted systems that can help a doctor perform surgery through artificial intelligence, or an AI might be able to help control traffic in a way that's far better than a human could. However, having an AI that acts and behaves like a human is still a long way away in my estimation. And I think that some of the things that I have to offer might be beneficial as part of a greater team. There's still much, much, much that I don't understand about AI, the technical aspects that I've lost through the years as I moved from being a software tester where I was writing code and automating my actions and writing things, to becoming a manager where I managed people that did that, to becoming a public speaker. My technical skills have fallen off. So I'm sure that there's been many technological advances that I would be able to help assist and supplement a team that had those skills that I no longer have.
So, any particular experience in your present job that you cannot forget?
Hmm. I go back to the idea of going around the world and getting to see and meet people that I might not have gotten to meet or see otherwise, and helping expand my own horizons. And then not just selfishly taking that for myself. I think that everything that everyone does to some degree is selfish, and I think that that's okay. There's nothing wrong with doing things that are in your own self-interest. I try and be careful that that's not the primary or only reason that I do something because it benefits me. I always try and find other reasons that I do actions. So I think that while I'm certainly grateful and appreciate getting to see people and meet people and helps me break out of my bubbles and makes me a better person, I also try and use all that I've gained to help others as well, to turn around and give back. So it's more of a generic answer. It's not a specific thing about something, one particularly memory that I like from my career. It's more of a general thing from my recent career of being a public speaker and to a lesser degree, the diversity of my software testing experience. Being in finance is very different than being in retail, and being in retail is very different than being in an airline. So those diverse experiences also help me become a better person, which I'm hopefully in turn returning to the world by helping others in the same way.
Which diversity is good? Connecting with different people or doing different roles, being in different roles.
This is another one of those good questions about the adjective. I think that they're different in different ways. I can't rank one higher than the other. I think that they're important in different ways. Which measuring stick are you using in this case?
So how you are able to adapt to different things that quick?
Um, I think that my training and experience with improvisation has helped me quite a bit. It seems strange for some people to have a knowledge of improvisation, which is creating something from nothing in the moment. You're able to extemporaneously adapt to any situation and react in an appropriate way. And they say, well, how do you go and train for that? It's in the moment. It's immediate. It's instantaneous. How do you go to class with a teacher and train? I say, well, being able to do that is about communication. It's about reading people, being observant. If I say something to you and I see your eyebrows go down and your head tilt a little bit, I might recognize, because I observed that, oh, this person is perhaps confused about the thing that I just said. Maybe I need to say it again. Maybe I need to ask them, are you confused? Is there something you don't understand? Other people might not recognize those facial expressions. They might not recognize that the person is confused at all. So that is a skill I think I developed through improvisation. By being in class and being on stage, I was able to be a better observer, notice things that other people might have missed. And so that's one way that improvisation has helped me be a better person that can adapt to any situation. Oftentimes, I'll have someone that's telling me about some problem, whether it's career problem, a personal, professional, it doesn't matter, some problem. And sometimes they just want to vent, and I'm a good ear. But sometimes they're seeking help. They're seeking solutions. They want to feel a different way. So sometimes I recognize that their particular problem might at least partially be solved if they take an improv 101 level course, a very rudimentary, basic first improv course. And they'll say, what? You're suggesting I've told you about a problem and I'm seeking a solution and you say I should go do improv class? Why? I don't want to perform on stage. And I say, well, that's not the purpose of improv. My very first class of improvisation had about 50 students. And the teacher lined us up and said, why are you here in this class? And the first person said, I don't want to perform. And she said, that's not what I asked. Why are you here? They said, oh, well, I'm shy. And some people have said that perhaps improv can help me become less shy, more outgoing. And the next person said, I have to give a talk at work and I'm not a public speaker. And someone suggested that improv might help me be a better public speaker. And as she went down and asked everybody, they all had very different answers. Mine was because I want to perform. That was my goal. But everyone had a different reason. And as the weeks and months of training went on, the class got smaller and smaller and smaller because the person that was shy, they got what they needed out of class. They become less shy. And the person that needed to become a better public speaker, they became a better public speaker and they didn't need to continue class. I went all the way to the end because I wanted to perform. So very often the things that you learn in improvisation can help you in a variety of different ways. And that's why I often suggest that improv is a useful way for people to take and potentially help solve their problems. And I'm going to plug something here really quickly. That idea is in the book I wrote. This is a children's book called Hank and Stella and Something from Nothing. And I wrote this originally for my two children because we're a family that reads a lot. And I read a lot of educational, informational books that are kind of boring. And I read to them at night a lot of entertaining, fun books that don't really have a lesson or a moral. And I decided to combine those ideas into a book that was both educational and fun. And write to what you know. So I know a lot about improvisation and the underlying life skills about the importance of practice and diversity and collaboration and empathy and communication. All of those ideas you learn in improv class. So I thought that's a pretty useful thing to teach my kids. Improvisation is a pretty fun thing to do, and it contains all of those important ideas. So this book teaches children all of those life skills about diversity, practice, communication, empathy by teaching them improvisational comedy. So the same things that I teach executives and I use in my professional speaking career, the same class that I recommend to people that have a problem, I say go take an improv class. The same thing that I teach to blind students to teach them life skills, I also have a book that teaches kids in primary school the same types of things.
So you work with different industry people right now,
Different what?
different industry people.
Industry people, sure.
Uh,
Well, what do you mean by that exactly?
People who belongs to different industries, not especially IT industry.
I see. Yes, absolutely. Across multiple industries, sure.
So how that experience, how you are able to solve their problems?
Well, they might have very specific problems with some tool or some process, some high level, very granular problem or very abstract problem. But I think that what I bring is being able to help them do some root cause analysis because excuse me, I'm such a believer in the idea of cause and effect and understanding why and why and why and helping them dig down to find uh, deeper level problems, deeper things that are causing their higher level problems. If someone has a big gash on their arm, their solution might be a Band-Aid. And that might work for a little bit, but it's not going to be the ultimate solution. So I like to dig down deeper and find a better. There's a blog post I wrote called what's the name of it? Let me look it up real quick. The blog post, Fundamental Concepts for Better Problem Solving. It's on my website. It's a blog post, and it's about how very often people jump straight to solutions, finding the solution before they even understand the problem deeply. So this blog post is about the suggestion that people should really, really dig in and deeply understand a problem before they start trying to find a solution. And so I think that what I bring to the table is helping people better see their problems in different ways. The talk more than that I mentioned earlier came from a real life experience where I was hired as a consultant into a realty company to help them do business process analysis, improvement, and documentation. I'd never worked in realty industry before. I'd never, at least on my resume, had the title of business process analyst or business process improvement. And so the hiring manager was skeptical that I would be able to help them in this endeavor. And as I thought about, he said, "You're just a tester. Are you sure that you can do this job? I looked at your resume. It looks like you have 25 years of testing. Why should you be the person for this job?" And I thought about it, and I said, "It occurs to me that for 25 years, I have been doing process analysis, looking at the way that things work and analyzing them. I've been doing process improvement, finding things that don't work well and making them better, finding things that are slow and making them faster, improving processes. And I've been doing process documentation for a long, long time. I've been documenting the way things work so that other people can read the documentation and learn from my own reference for a multitude of reasons. I've been doing all of those activities in a testing context, testing process analysis, testing process improvement, test process documentation. What this job is just changing the context to be realty, business. I think I have all the underlying skills, and I've been honing them and developing them for 25 years. So it turns out I actually have all the necessary skills and experience that you need. I just need to learn to speak your language." And when I joined the team, he liked the answer. I got the job and I joined the team. I didn't know anything about realty. I didn't know all the acronyms and jargon and lingo that they were using when they had meetings. But I would ask stupid questions. I would ask obvious questions. And oftentimes those questions would expose problems because those people, there's the curse of knowledge, being so close to a topic or a subject that you can't see the flaws in it. I was sufficiently far enough away from this topic that I was able to see things that they weren't because of my ignorance. So that is a way that I was able to bring this fundamental, helping them see problems in a different way than they could before.
It's not easy for any software tester who worked for software development who worked in software industry for a long time suddenly to become a great speaker? How you are able to do that? It's not easy.
Um, well, I think that I don't know that I'm a great speaker. I think that I, I, I personally am happy with what I've accomplished. I think that the feedback I've gotten is a pretty decent indicator that what I'm doing is meaningful. I also believe that not everyone should do everything or everyone can do everything. Not everyone's going to be a great basketball player or cook. I'm a horrible cook. Now, maybe if I devoted time and effort and practice, I could become a better cook, but some people, it comes naturally to them. They're just a great cook anyway. But if that's the thing that interests you, then spend time developing it. Find ways that you already skills and experience that you already have that can translate over to helping you be whatever you want to be. In this case, a speaker. If you're already a software tester, I already said how being an observant software tester already helped me be one aspect of my public speaking, being able to read people. That was one thing. So already I would say that software testers, if they're a good software tester, very observant, very great at noticing things when they're testing software and seeing things that others don't, they might already have some attribute of a good public speaker.
So I can see you are doing other works as well, some creative artwork, and also you are writing books. So how these skills came?
Um, the book, as I said, once I had children and we're a reading family, we would read often to them. And I read a lot of wonderful books, well-written books. I read a lot of informative but boring books, a lot of enjoyable but shallow books, a lot of horrible books that were just, I couldn't believe that they were published. Um, but we read and read and read, and our kids still love to read. And so after a while, I wondered if I could challenge myself with something new, something different. I thought, well, I read lots of these books. Could I write one? And so I decided to, again, write to what I know, try and make a book that's both educational and enjoyable. And that's where I came up with the Hank and Stella in Something from Nothing book. By the way, if anybody wants to read it, it's at hankandstellabooks.com. You can read the entire book for free at that website. So that's where that book came from. I self-published and it's on Amazon. But the idea was never to pay the mortgage. I created one copy for my kids when I finished it. It's based off of their own favorite stuffed animals. And I created one copy and I read it to my kids and they enjoyed it. And then I put it on social media and people thought it was interesting. And they said, where can I get a copy? And I thought, oh, I never intended for it to be public. But I started researching and I learned that there was no other books for children about improv comedy. There was collections of improv games, but nothing that talked to children at a children's language and level that helped them better understand what improv was and secretly was teaching them life skills too. So I thought that there was a need and a hole and a gap that could be filled, and I decided to self-publish the book and put it out there for the world to enjoy and benefit from. So that's kind of the origin story of the book. As far as the art, I said I've been drawing since I was a child, but never professionally, just as a hobby to make my family and friends smile. That's all. However, during the pandemic, when March of 2020 started, all of my public speaking engagements went away because no one could gather anymore. And so my kids got sent home from school, and now they were on Zoom school, sitting in front of a computer, watching and learning from their teacher. My fourth grader, she was okay at navigating Google Classroom and doing online learning, but my second grader was had a more difficult time. He wasn't sure how to work a computer as well. He didn't understand when to ask a question. And so I was there to guide him and help him. I sat by him from morning till afternoon every single day, helping him with the schoolwork and helping him with his Zoom school. But some of it wasn't hands-on and I got bored. So I decided one day I saw a friend of mine post what they called their favorite photograph of themselves. They said, this photograph is over 10 years old, but every time I look at it, I smile. It's my favorite photograph of myself. They're a friend of mine, so I just decided to draw. And I got my iPad and a stylus, and I drew the photograph. And I posted it back to them and said, hey, I drew your favorite photo. And they said, wow, that's so nice. Thank you. And I thought, well, I like being nice. I like helping people, and I can't help people through public speaking now. I'm not completely 100% utilized helping my son. How else can I be kind to people? And I decided to start searching Twitter for the phrase favorite photograph of myself, or variations, favorite picture of me. And there's lots and lots and lots of content. People's favorite subject is themselves with selfies. Everyone loves themselves. So there's no shortage of pictures that people say, this is my favorite photograph of me. And I started finding photographs, and I'd read about the people and learn about them before I decided to pick a photograph. And I started drawing people. And then I'd post it back and say, hi, I'm just some guy in Ohio that liked your picture and decided to draw it. I hope you enjoy it. And I did about 100 of those. And then the reception was not exactly what I expected. You can read about this on my website, idrawstrangers.com, where I've posted all 100 of these. But the reception wasn't exactly as I'd hoped. I thought that I was doing something kind and people would be grateful and happy. I was trying to bring smiles to the world. And that happened about half the time. About half the people didn't respond, and that's fine for whatever reason. But I was more concerned with the people that took offense. They did not like me drawing them, and they asked me to remove pictures, and they didn't like it at all. And I thought, wow, that's not the response I was really looking for at all. I'm trying to bring happiness to people in the world, and instead I'm bringing the opposite. So I changed and I moved to a website called Reddit, reddit.com, and there's a sub-forum on Reddit where people can actually post photographs of themselves that they want artists to draw. So to keep myself busy, I continue to draw people out of kindness that want to be drawn now. And sometimes that leads to commissions. Sometimes I'll do a commission for someone. They want their pet drawn, or a relative or a family member of some sort, or a friend, and I'll do commissions. Again, it's not paying for the house. It's a very, very small amount of money, but more importantly, it keeps me busy when I'm not speaking or training or consulting, and it's kind.
So, speaking in front of a lot of people is completely different. So, when you came to this job for the first time, how was your experience?
I was fortunate because my first talk was called Improve with the E in parentheses. So you can read it improv or improve. Improve your testing. So I took two areas of my life that I had some depth of knowledge. One was software testing. At that point, I'd been software testing for 17 or 18 years, and I had some knowledge there. And I had done at that point maybe 8 or 9 years of improv. So I had some depth of knowledge there. And I put the two topics together just like I did in the book, teaching kids about improv. I could teach people why communication is important to testing, and why understanding models is important to testing, and why causality is an important concept to testing. And that would be a very boring talk. So I like to take these boring topics and wrap them up in something more interesting. And since all of those concepts are also used in improv, I decided to wrap them up. So my first talk was called Improv Your Testing. Of course, by that time, I had depth of knowledge and depth of experience with improv. Improv is being on stage in front of strangers and creating something from nothing. So by that point, being on stage at a conference was no big deal. It wasn't shocking. It wasn't terrifying. I think I've read articles that say some of the top fears of people are spiders and drowning and heights and public speaking. A lot of people are very, very terrified of public speaking. And if someone came to me and said, boy, I want to become a speaker, but it's so terrifying, as I mentioned before, my advice to them might be take an Improv 101 class, because you'll absolutely learn things in improvisation that will help you become less terrified of public speaking.
That's amazing. So summing up, what do you say about yourself completely? Like, about your complete experience, the present work that you're doing with the past work that you did.
Um, Sometimes people pose the question to others, do you have any regrets? And my answer is somewhere between 0 and millions. I'm certainly happy with who I am now in this world. I'm happy with where I am, what I've accomplished, what I hope to accomplish with the rest of my life. And I don't think that I would be who I am today without my previous life experience. That said, I've experienced incredibly difficult times and a lot of hardship in my life. And if I could somehow travel back in time and talk to my previous self and say, this thing you're about to do is going to cause you immeasurable pain, you might want to reconsider, at the risk of becoming a different person when you're older. I don't know if I'd choose differently. It might be like, yes, that pain is avoidable. I want to do something different, or it will affect becoming a person that has a pretty meaningful, fortunate life when he's 49 years old. Maybe I will make the same decision as before. So that's kind of how I see it. I see myself as very fortunate to have a very diverse life, very diverse experiences. I'm trying to help others see their potential and true value so that they can be better people in this world. And so I'm very grateful and fortunate for who I think I've become and how and where I am right now.
And one last question, what difference that you are observing in people who are from different parts of the world?
Sure. I thought of one important thing I forgot to add on to the last question. It's a part that I would not definitely not be who I am today without this, is my wife. My wife is fantastic. When I decided to quit my job and told her I was going to quit this very comfortable, high-paying job to become a public speaker, she was supportive. She said, "All right, let's do it." And the first year I went from six figures, making a very nice six-figure salary, to $6,000. I made $6,000 my first year in business. That's quite a difference. And the money has not come back anywhere close to levels of what I was making when I was employed at a corporation. However, my wife has supported me financially, emotionally, and many, many other ways to allow me to continue this grand adventure, and I'm super appreciative. So that's another way that I feel fortunate. Now, I'm sorry, could you repeat the your last question because I want to address that one too.
That's a great thing that you said. And
Thanks.
my question, my question
She's standing
was,
behind me, so I want to make sure. No.
so my question was, you connecting and talking with different country people who are from different parts of the world. What is the difference that you observed in human beings from different places?
That's another wonderful question. Boy, you're a great interviewer. I'll tell you. In my opinion, you are wonderful at this. One thing I like to do when I travel around the country, the United States, and when I travel around the world is I always try and find an improv show to go and see. So I find a comedy club or an improvisational club, and I go to watch an improv show with people just like doing what I did for 15 years in Columbus, Ohio. I try and find the equivalent people somewhere else in other parts of the world. And every single time I do that, and I've seen improv all over the world, I notice that there's differences and there's similarities. And that's the same answer to your question. As I travel around the world and I see people from different backgrounds, experiences, life experiences, different cultures, social and different political bubbles, I notice similarities and I notice differences. But at the core, I think that we're all humans. Um, and I think that that is one of the most important similarities that I try and suss out. If you dig down, as I said, from all these different business problems, you often end up at just a handful of root problems, a lack of communication, lack of empathy, not understanding modeling. Same thing for people around the world. If you try and understand somebody from the left side of the world compared to the right side of the world, or the top or the bottom, you might dig down and find out that they're struggling with trust issues or emotions, or they're trying their best to communicate their ideas and struggling with that or succeeding with that. So I think that might answer your question. I see similarities and differences everywhere I go.
So with your presence, however, any human being is getting some contribution from you. When you was a software tester, you are contributing that company or that organization, and it is helping eventually a human being. Now you are directly interacting with the human beings and directly contributing them. So with these diversified works that you did in your life, do you got the purpose of your life and the meaning of have you found the meaning and the purpose of your life?
I think if I found myself on my deathbed tomorrow and I looked at the sky and said, "Did I matter?" And my family and friends said, "Yes, you did." And I thought, "Thank you. Of course, I know you're going to say that. Did I matter in other areas?" I feel like the answer would now be yes. I've done my best to make a difference, a positive impact on the world. So yeah, I feel like I don't think that I would shut my eyes and worry about all the money that I've made or not made. I think I would be able to be satisfied with the impact I've made and that I'm trying to continue to make.
So, if these words of yours, if this conversation and your expressions have saved in any data center in the world, and this conversation is heard by some people after 100 or 200 years and listening to you, what do you want to say to them? Because you matter.
Absolutely. You're more than that. That's one message. You matter and be kind. I often end interviews of this type with that simple directive, that suggestion that people be kind to one another. Kindness is in short supply, and that comes with deeper ideas of empathy and communication and trust, but be kind.
So I'll put your web links in the description of this video on YouTube. People who finds our video on YouTube can see the work that you're doing, can take the service that you're providing, and also I'll put on the screen as well. They can see your work. And at last, as a person who worked in different fields and observed different things in your life, what is your observation about my work? Have you seen any videos of mine on YouTube?
I'm very impressed. I've already told you I'm impressed with your the questions that you ask, and that's an indication that you're actually listening. You're not just thinking about the next thing without taking in it. And part of you listening, I think, before we chatted today, I was really, again, I mentioned this before, asking why? Who's the audience? What's the purpose of these interviews? What are you doing with these? I need to understand who I'm talking to better help me understand why, what I say, and how I say it. And part of the answer was to help you grow. That was part of the answer and the purpose and reason for the interviews. And I think that that's wonderful. I think that I'm improving all the time, whether I'm teaching improv to visually impaired students or speaking on a stage in Australia. I'm always looking for ways to improve and grow myself. I think that you deeply understand that about yourself, and I think that these videos can help others. So I think this is a fantastic endeavor, a great series thing that you're doing here. And if my words or many of the fascinating, diverse other people that you've already interviewed can be seen and help others, weeks, months, years later, that's wonderful. You're doing a great thing. And I think that all of that is not just in service to you developing your own career, which seems from LinkedIn not that far in yet. You're still relatively at the beginning of your software career, just like software as a profession is still in its infancy. But I really see great things from you. You're able to intake, uh, assess, listen carefully to provide the next question to your interviewee, but also to take it internally and help make yourself a better person. I think that's great.
I'll become you someday, maybe after 10 years, 20 years, 25 years. I'll do the same that you are doing.
I would love it. We need more.
So, thank you very much. Can I put this video on my YouTube channel with your permission?
I'd be honored to. I'm excited and honored to see it. Yes, thank you so much.
And also, can I put this conversation on my podcast, website, internet, social media, everywhere with your permission?
Absolutely. Tag me, and I'm happy to share it elsewhere on all my circles.
So I want this conversation to reach everywhere, and at least one thought of yours or one experience of yours or one idea that you said that changed you or that made you change yourself, that if that makes change in somebody's life and improves themselves, and you will be the great contributor for them, and you'll be the change maker for their life.
That would be wonderful. That's what I'm trying to do. That's the
So
main reason I do what I do.
So contribute more to the planet and do continue doing this.
Be kind.
Thank you, sir, again.
Okay, thank you, Sai. Appreciate it.
Bye.